You know, we often think about the American Revolution in terms of battles and generals. But what if I told you the whole thing almost collapsed? Not because of British cannons, but because America was flat broke. Seriously, the biggest threat wasn't an army, it was an empty treasury. And that led to one single, terrifying question.
I mean, really think about that. This was the question staring the Continental Congress right in the face in 1781. The war was just grinding to a halt, soldiers weren't getting paid, and that whole dream of independence, it was dissolving into a total fiscal nightmare. The entire experiment was about to go bankrupt. And here's why. It all came down to the money itself. The Continental dollar, the paper money Congress was printing, by 1780 it had depreciated so badly that its actual value in gold or silver was just 2 cents. You couldn't buy anything with it. It was basically worthless paper.
So how in the world did it get this bad? Well, let's dive into that first, because this is the story of the financial chaos that nearly killed America before it even got started.
A huge part of the problem was the system itself. Under the Articles of Confederation, Congress had no power to tax people directly. All it could do was ask the states for money. And the states, they pretty much just didn't pay. I mean, look at this. Congress asked for $95 million. They got less than $2 million. You can't run a corner store on that kind of a shortfall, let alone fight a war.
And to make things 1,000 times worse, the U.S. Treasury was an absolute disaster. It was just paralyzed by infighting, total incompetence, and zero authority. The Auditor General himself said the whole thing was like a clogged machine. Nobody knew where the money was going, or if there even was any money, it was just pure chaos.
Okay, so the country is on the brink of financial collapse. In total desperation, Congress turns to this one guy, Robert Morris. He was a big-shot Philadelphia merchant, known for being a financial whiz. And they unanimously picked him to be the first ever superintendent of finance.
Now, Morris knew just how broken the system was, so he agrees to take the job, but he has one jaw-dropping condition. He demanded absolute power to hire and fire anyone in any department that touched public money. Now, you got to remember, this is a brand new country that is terrified of anything that looks like a king. This demand for centralized power was unbelievable, but Congress was out of options, so they said yes.
So, armed with this unheard of authority, Morris gets to work. And he doesn't just patch up the old system. Oh no, he tears it down and builds a completely new one from scratch.
And the change was, immediate. It was night and day. He totally reorganized the Treasury. The chaos? He replaced it with a clear hierarchy, defined roles, a comptroller, a registrar, a treasurer. He kicked out the political hacks and brought in professional accountability. He took this dysfunctional mess and turned it into a real, functioning government department.
But his boldest move was how he tackled the tax problem. He basically built a new federal tax system out of thin air. First, he appointed his own guys, these continental receivers in every single state. These are men loyal to the national government, not the states. Their job? To collect taxes directly, and this is the genius part, to completely bypass the flaky state treasuries and send the money straight to Congress.
So Morris brought order. He created a revenue stream, but his real secret weapon, his masterstroke, was something that today sounds, unbelievably boring. It was the financial statement.
This, right here, was Morris's core belief. He argued that for a government to be real, to be legitimate, it had to be accountable to its people. The law, the Articles of Confederation, didn't say he had to publish anything, but Morris did it anyway. He was convinced that the people had a fundamental right to know exactly what was happening with their money.
And here's how he turned that belief into a weapon. He started preparing and publishing these super detailed financial statements that included tables just like this one, showing, for all the world to see, exactly how much each state had paid in taxes, or, more importantly, how much they hadn't paid. He was literally naming and shaming the deadbeat states in public. And this wasn't some quiet little report. He had 500 copies of these things printed up and sent them everywhere, to every state governor, to his new tax receivers, even to General Washington and Ben Franklin over in France. It was a massive public pressure campaign, all built on one simple idea: transparency. He used it to force the states to finally pay up.
Now, here's the really amazing part. This whole system wasn't just some temporary fix to get through the war. What Morris built in a moment of crisis actually laid the permanent groundwork for how the U.S. government would handle its finances forever.
Think about it. When the framers sat down to write the U.S. Constitution a few years later, they took Morris's radical idea and baked it right into the law. This clause, right here in Article 1, Section 9, is the direct descendant of those wartime financial reports. The idea that our government must regularly publish a full account of where the money comes from and where it goes, that is a cornerstone of American democracy, and it was born in that desperate fight against bankruptcy.
And that kind of leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? Today, in an age of ridiculously complex budgets and government spending, we just sort of take this transparency for granted. But it's worth asking ourselves, is that simple, powerful act of just opening up the books and showing the people the numbers, is that still as revolutionary an idea today as it was back in 1782?